Let's get started. So thanks for joining us. Today we have an update with Condor. Mark Child, CEO, is going to give us a brief update, and then we're going to do a Q&A. So feel free to enter any questions you have in the Q&A box at the bottom. As always, this presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to know more about those, you can find them on the company's website on their presentation. With that out of the way, hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there. Sorry about the Zoom glitch at my end.
It happens. Technology's never perfect. Just like mining, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't you give us a little bit of an update and then we'll jump into Q&A.
Well, just to recap, because there'll be people at different stages of knowledge on the project. We've got the Landia project in Nicaragua. We've got about 2.4 million ounces there. In addition to that, we've got 100,000 ounces on small deposits outside of the main project. The project's fully permitted to construct and operate a mine. And we've built this around a number of scenarios. We've worked through PEAs, PFSs, FSs. When we get to the FS level, which we filed on CDAR last October, we're at about 82,000 ounces of gold a year. When we expand that, adding another feeder pits, we get to about 110 to 120,000 ounces from open pit material. And if we put the underground in, we get to 150,000 ounces. And under those other two scenarios of upside are under PEA scenario, just to be clear. But it's highly lucrative. There's 12-month payback. All these numbers are done at $1,600 gold. So it looks attractive in the current context. And I suppose the big news for us is that we've announced that we're selling the assets of the company.
All right. Are you good with we start off with some questions, Mark? Or?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So the first one, you mentioned the asset sale, and this was asked you previously in a different interview, but it gives good context. So November 2022, Condor announced that it had appointed a firm to find buyers. So why did you decide to formally announce the sale?
We needed to make a clearing announcement to the stock market ahead of a placement, which the directors participated in, or in a financing. So our chairman and biggest shareholder, Jim Mellon, led that financing with 1 million sterling. And that was why we actually had to make an announcement. So we were kind of forced to do it. We also thought it was the right thing to do at the time. And sometimes it makes it easier for an investment bank to talk to people when it's actually in the public domain that the company is selling its assets. And it provides a clearer strategy for the shareholders.
Thank you. And are there any updates you can give us on the progress of that or not?
Yes, the investment bank sent out teasers to probably 100 companies. We gave an update a few weeks ago, but to recap on that, we've had 9 companies under NDA. And NDA meaning that under non-disclosure agreements, but meaning that they'll get an 80-page information memorandum, they get access to the data room, they get access to all the technical studies through PEAs to PFS to FS, all the permitting, environmental, financial models, of course, they get all that. We've had 3 companies complete site visits, so that's really meaningful because they're flying people from all over the world. And we have 4 non-binding offers for the assets of the company. So there's quite a lot of interest.
Thank you. Switching gears to the asset, the site is permitted for construction and mining. Is that right?
That's correct. So in Nicaragua, you get when you get a concession, you get concessions granted by the Ministry of Energy and Mines, and that is for exploration and extraction. But before you can do anything, you then have to go to the Ministry of Environment and get environmental permits to trench, environmental permits to drill, and eventually environmental permits to construct and operate a mine. That's an EIA, an environmental impact assessments done for the permit. So we've been granted those on 3 pits, as in open pits, that in aggregate have 1.1 million ounces. So they're fully permitted to extract. And we have polygons for that. And so all technical studies, there are 16 technical studies that have to go into an EIA. And if it's an environmental impact assessment, it's actually environmental social impact assessment, because 6 of those studies are environmental and social studies. And the community gets to actually vote on whether they want the mine to proceed. That's after the technicians at the ministries, and there are 4 ministries involved in Nicaragua: the Ministry of the Environment, Ministry of Energy and Mines, Ministry of Water, and Ministry of Forestry. And the technicians within those ministries are eventually, if you get to our stage, approve the technical studies, and it proceeds to a public hearing or public consultation, as they call it. And then you get the community, in our case, voted for the mine. So that's a great social license. And so we have all that. And important to note that underneath that 1.1 million of open pit material, there's another 1 million of underground. So in my mind, that's already permitted because if you're going to permit the open pits, which are much larger issues to permit from an environmental perspective, you'll certainly permit the underground.
And then I wanted to touch on your, you mentioned 100,000 ounce a year production target initially. The feasibility study had just over 80,000. So can you explain to us how that little gap would get bridged?
Yes. Well, the feasibility study is on just under 40% of our resource ounces. So it's on a single pit, the main pit called Landier Open Pit. That has 900,000 ounces of gold, and it's broken out between 820,000 of indicated, and the balance of 80,000 is inferred. As you listeners will be aware, you can only use indicated ounces in a reserve number, and only reserves can be used in bankable feasibilities or definitive feasibility studies. So taking that 820 of inferred, all this is fully permitted, the main pit. That gives you on the FS study, 82,000 ounces of gold per annum for several years. In addition to that, we have two other feeder pits permitted, but they're at a combination of PEA, PFS, FS level. Different studies are done, but we haven't included them in that FS that we've announced. And on the PEA level study we did in 2021, that the three pits combined give you 120,000 ounces of gold per annum for 6 years. So I think it's fair to say that as someone built this mill and put it into construction, you drill out those other two feeder pits and take them up to a reserve status, and you'd mine all three. Would come in fairly early, and they're higher grade. Some of those feeder pits, they're 8-gram feeder pits, so you typically want those to come in early to enhance the payback on the project.
And you mentioned that these are permitted as well. The two.
Yes, they're all three pits are permitted. So there's 1.1 million ounces permitted.
Okay.
900 in the main pit, which has got the reserve in of the 82,000, and then the other, the open pit material not at reserve level would be the inferred in the main pit. That's 80. Plus the other two pits, which are 220. So there's another 300,000 ounces of open pit material, which is not at reserve stated, but it's partially indicated and inferred. But that would come into a mine plan.
Got it. Thank you. And we have an audience question for you. Just to clarify, does Condor now own 100% of the land required to build the mine?
In our latest annual report, which we put out a few weeks ago, we said we own 99% of the land. So the land that we own 100% within Landier Open Pit, which is the key part. In the buffer zone between a community and the pit, there's a few more small properties we need to buy at some stage. We have all the prices. We know the buyers. No, we know the sellers, sorry. We know all the density. We've been working here for 12 years, so we have very good relationships with everybody. And there's a cost within the FS study for acquiring that land, and that's about $700,000. So we have all of that. On the Mestiza Open Pit, we own all the land, nothing to stop waste dumps or anything. On the America Open Pit, we don't own all the land. We only own about 30% of the land on the open pit. So at the FS, it's 99. It's 100% on Mestiza, which is 120,000 ounces at 8 grams, and it's about 30% on the America Open Pit.
Okay, thank you. And then the other part of this question was, would you need to negotiate any purchase prior to the asset sale going ahead?
No, we've had 3 site visits. So one of the points of the due diligence that people do on the site visits is land. You own all the surface rights. So we have all that. What we're being cautious about is, and that'll become part of the equation. It's quite possible someone might say, right, we're buying all the assets. Here's a condition. One of them might be clean up the rest of the land sale. We would expect that, and we're ready to go. I was in Nicaragua 3 weeks ago, but we want to conserve cash. We don't want necessarily to go into another financing ahead of an asset sale. So we're holding off on that, and we see that as being part of the sort of sale process to tidy up the balance. But it's not an issue. We have that totally under control, and we have prices as well. We could clean it up within a few weeks if we wanted to.
And the next question for you is about the expansion to 150,000 ounces with the underground. So going from the 100,000 ounces 3 pits to underground 150, would that just be adding underground or additional pit material as well?
No, that would just be adding on mainly underground material coming in. The PEA scenario, just to be clear on that, what it envisages is 150,000 ounces per annum for 9 years and a 12-month payback at $1,600 gold. It envisages the first 2 years just being completely open pittable. So 300,000 ounces they think could come in open pittable. That's obviously taking in firm material as well. And that throws off a huge amount of cash, and you use the cash flow from that to develop the underground. So it's not envisaging a second recourse to capital at a later stage. So that's how it's worked. So from year 3, you start to go underground as well as open pit to blend to that average of 150,000 over 9 years.
Okay, thank you. And did you mention that the underground is permitted as well? Because we were going to ask about the permitting process.
No. The underground is not permitted, but it's under the pits. So I said, I think it's already permitted in my mind, because if you're permitted an open pit 1.2 kilometers long and 500 meters wide and 250 meters deep, you're certainly going to permit a portal in the side of a hill next to it to go to the underground. Got
it. Thank you. And the mill. So is it on site now? And are there any permits still, or any payments still due on it?
It's in 80% of it is in a warehouse in Managua. So it's actually in a warehouse in really good condition. It's i.e. it's kept dry, importantly, with security guards and so forth. We owe a balance of $300,000. The total cost of the mill was $6.5 million, plus about $500,000 in transportation costs. And we bought that mill off First Majestic Silver, and we'll pay that ahead of the actual sale, the balance of $300,000. So we owe, if you like, less than 5%.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And you wouldn't want to bring it to site. It's a 2-hour drive from site, but it's better off the parts being in storage with security guards around it in a warehouse at the moment.
Makes sense. Thank you. And then a couple of exploration questions for you. So the property covers over 580 square kilometers.
Yeah.
How have you managed to zone in on your current resources and reserves?
It's taken a long time to get that 587 square kilometers. We started off with one concession about 12 years ago, so just 22 square kilometers, and gradually I've bought or consolidated the whole district, and we've got another 11 concessions, which are all adjacent and contiguous to the original concession. And the reason we picked that up is that we flew it with helicopter-borne magnetic and radio and geophysics surveys, and it identifies a couple of major regional faults running through the project. These are known as basement feeder zones. There are several cross-cutting structures, and the southern part of the deposit drops down to the south. So that is why we picked it up. And this is typically what you look for in very big gold districts. They need to be lots of faulting for the gold fluids to come through the faults. So yes, that took lots of cups of coffee and so forth, and a lot of work in Nicaragua. We've also got 7 deposits. Just so you talk about the exploration upside, of the 3 permitted areas, which are 2.1 million ounces in total, that's the open pit and underground within the polygon that's permitted. We think that we can get that from 2.1 million to 3 million ounces of gold just by drilling down the ore shoots. So that's an easy resource expansion. Of the 4 other areas, there are 3 at about 50,000 ounces, and there's Cacao, a 4th one at 100,000 ounces. We did some drilling on Cacao a year ago, and we got some fantastic results, and we drilled along strike. We increased the resource to about 100,000, but we do think there's another 1 million ounces there. We hit some nice wide intercepts of 14 meters at 4 grams, which is great. So we found another big vein. It just needs to be drilled out.
Thank you. And are you doing any drilling or exploration work currently, or not at this?
No, we're in the conserve cash mode as we look to sell the assets of the company. So we're not. We'd love to be. In fact, with this gold price, it's a shame that we haven't had a stronger treasury to actually be doing some drilling at the same time as you're running, just to remind people what a high-grade asset this is. And there's a long section on the presentation I gave yesterday at the Gold Forum. I'm in Zurich at the moment at the Gold Forum, European Gold Forum run by the Denver Gold Group. And there's a cross-section there of the mainland pit, and you can see there are 4 intersections to the south of the pit that offsets. It faults down 150 meters. Each intersect is over 10 grams, and the average width is 10 meters, and that's totally open. So we know that we can add probably a few 100,000 ounces to the south of the pit and underground, just from that, for example.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had. I know Deb has some more for you.
Yeah, for sure. So switching gears a little bit to Nicaragua, what has Condor's experience been like working in Nicaragua? In your experience, has this environment changed over time?
I first went to Nicaragua in 2006, 17 years ago now, so I've got some history with the country. And I've been CEO of Condor for 12 years after we managed to swap a concession with B2 Gold, the mainland concession, for another concession. So we swapped it just for a concession. We didn't pay any money for this project. When I first went, gold was the 10th largest export. It's now the number 1 export in US dollar terms. And that's partly due to the government strategy of encouraging foreigners to build mines. And B2 Gold put the first one in at La Libertad. It was heap leach before, but they put a major processing plant in and expanded that to 6,200 tons per day. And then we've had a few other people build mines. There's Mako Mining there, as you know, Deborah, and we've got expansions happened with Mineros. So I've seen a doubling of gold production in the country during that period. And the current stated strategy from the government is to double gold production again in the next 5 years. So they're very pro-mining. You get to own 100%. They haven't changed the mining law. There's been one minor change, but they haven't really changed the mining law. And they don't have oil, and they see this as a cornerstone of the economy. So the government helps to some extent in that they're practical about not wanting to stop mining due to any union issues. So they might have somebody help negotiate. They might, and they've been permitting a lot of projects, but you have to go through a very rigorous environmental process, as I've already described, to actually get a permit. They don't just give them out. It's still very, very undiscovered. It's the biggest landmass in Central America by a long way. And there's only 6.5 million people. So due to its political past, there hasn't been a lot of new exploration in the country. But we found it, you can get to see ministers. So we took a Chinese group to see the Minister of Energy and Mines a few weeks ago. And he's aware that we've made this announcement of selling the assets. And they said, yeah, we understand. He got it to such a stage, and what they want to see is a mine built, and someone obviously with mine building expertise and cash flows would be in a good position to do that. So it's been positive.
Okay, thanks for that. With an asset sale process underway, are you considering selling a portion of the assets, or would it be a complete sale?
I think our preference, if it's the asset sale, is to sell all the assets. I imagine the prospective buyer would be more interested in having 100% of the assets and not us sitting there in some small capacity. It's always possible an asset sale could, although we've gone out with an asset sale in our announcements, we are not beholden to what a potential buyer might want to do. They might turn around and say, actually, we want to buy the company. So it's possible that scenario could happen. So I'll just leave that as an option. We are a listed company. Someone could take a different view. We said we've gone out marketing the assets. We could have a different result.
And how's the sale process going?
But there's a lot of interest. I mentioned just previously that we've got 4 non-binding offers. We've had 3 site visits completed and 9 under an NDA. And for example, at this conference, Deborah, I've met 4 gold producers on a one-on-one for 30 minutes. These conferences are not just about meeting potential investors and so forth. And I've met some existing shareholders. They're also a chance for you to meet fellow CEOs and people are interested in how's the sale process going. Because at the end of the day, there aren't many projects that are construction ready with permits that have bought the land, got a SAG mill, and a bigger guy can certainly go immediately to 120,000 ounces.
And in terms of the interested parties, are they corporate strategics? Can you give us a little bit of some additional information?
Two are TSX listed companies and 2 are Chinese.
Okay.
So they're gold producers in that sense.
Sorry, what was that? I missed that.
They're gold producers.
Okay. And how long will it take for non-binding offers to convert into binding offers? Like, what do you think the timeline from here is? I know it's hard to predict.
Well, that's the job of the investment bank. I think they've now got the art of the banker, if you like, is to convert a couple of those into binding indications. And then the board, as soon as we get something that comes through that's semi-acceptable, then the board will have to make a further announcement and say, we've had an offer for the assets of X, or whatever that announcement might be, where obviously price-sensitive information we've got to put out there. I would hope that we can move from non-binding to a further announcement over the course of the next 4 to 8 weeks, but something could come through next week for all I know. I don't know. Gold price moving ahead of us, maybe someone will want to move quicker. But if people are going to spend considerable sums on this, they have to do their due diligence, and they have to run it through their advisors, and they have to get third-party opinions. And there's legal due diligence, as you know, as well as the technical. So all that is going on in the background, but it takes time.
You referenced gold price being at the level that it's at. Is that creating tension? Have you seen that impacting negotiations?
Not particularly. I think the people have been in a bit ahead of the recent sort of move in the share price, but we're waiting on price. I think it might. I think people will be able to get more comfortable with numbers with higher gold prices and what they actually pay. So I think that will and should lead through to a higher price coming through for the assets in the company.
And you mentioned the share price increase. The stocks has almost doubled in about a month. How do you interpret this increase?
Partly the gold price. I mean, gold has actually put on over the last 2 months $300. It's knocking on all-time highs. It's probably about to break out over the next month or two. So that's one thing. There's more money coming into the sector generally. So this isn't just a Condor thing. Calibre mining share price has also doubled. The big producer, they produced 180,000 ounces in Nicaragua last year. So there's a general re-rating going on within the sector, helped by the gold price. I think we also had a situation in Nicaragua where 220 political prisoners were released 4 weeks ago. And I think a number of people have taken a view that the worst is over from a political, hopefully a bottom is in, and the worst is over from a market, from a political risk perspective. And I think when we put announcements out saying, we've got 900 NDAs and we've got site visits done and so forth, people are actually going, right, actually it's real. It looks like someone actually is going to buy this. So there's probably some speculation in the share prices to what that goes for. And in terms of valuation, you can see the PEA is done at 1,600 gold. For the bigger scenario was $420 million US. And the investment bank has gone out with a teaser on a similar number. Our market capitalization today, even after that rise, is about $67 million.
Mm-hmm.
So we're 1.4% of the gold price. That's one way to look at it. We're $26, $27 an ounce in the ground, which is 1.4% of ounces in the ground basis. So it's still pretty cheap. And if this was in Canada, dare I say, Deborah, sort of fully permitted with 2.4 million ounces, able to go to 5 with all the land and SAG mills and so forth, the multiple would be 5 times what it is today. So there's a heavy discount for Nicaragua. I think so. So I think it's partly linked in with a number of factors: the gold price, perhaps a perceived improvement in political risk, the fact we're running a sales process, the fact we've announced that we've got non-binding offers. So I think that a combination of all of those.
Okay. And one last question from the audience. Do you have any further site visits planned in the coming weeks?
We're just waiting actually on another 2. So I'm wondering when I next go back to Nicaragua. So I've got a flight booked in a couple of weeks' time, but we're waiting for one to be confirmed at the moment.
Okay.
So nothing absolutely certain, but there's another company that wants to come through.
Okay, great. I don't see any more audience questions, and I think that's all the questions that I had. Magda?
All were answered. Thank you.
I think that was a really good update, Mark. Thanks for your time, and thanks everyone in the audience for participating. Mark, was there anything you wanted to touch on that we didn't cover today?
Not particularly. I hope that's reasonably clear where we are. I gave a presentation at the Denver Gold Group in Zurich yesterday. I'm told that'll be ready this evening at 6:00 from them. If not, hopefully tomorrow. We'll put that on our website, so that gives a further update. There's a new PowerPoint that went up, has to go up with that, so people can take a look at that. And we've got a lot of interest in the sale process, so that's the message I want to convey as well. And we're quite pleased with that.
Well, congratulations! Sounds like things are progressing nicely for Condor.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, well, thanks for your time. If anyone has any further questions, feel free to reach out, or if you want a one-on-one meeting, just let us know. We'd be happy to arrange that. And Mark, have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. We will do.